Hello, hello. So I'm creating this channel and this first video hopefully as the first of many for me to just sort of practice my own programming skills and engage with the broader programming community and just have a little bit of fun with all these different cool app ideas. So this one is just meant as my first one. I just want to kick one off and see how the audience responds. If people like it, I'll go into more depth as we continue along. But I really just want to get up and running here quickly to give you all the benefit and reduce the amount of time that we're spending here. So what I'd like to do is I found this really cool GitHub repo called App Ideas from someone named FlorinPop17. And they have really cool projects separated by these different tier levels. For example, tier 1 beginner projects, tier 2 intermediate projects, and tier 3 advanced projects, where someone that's learning can go ahead and try to do all of them and learn a lot along the way. So I'm hoping to also hone my own skills and have a really just raw live session where I'm coding along with you all, making things happen, and we're all just learning and talking and engaging with each other. And hopefully that's what this can become. That being said, if anyone's interested, follow along with me. We're going to be headed to Florin Pop App Ideas. I'll probably put this in the description of the video to make it easier for you all to find. But for this first one, I'm going to be starting at tier 1. I'm hoping to go to all these different projects. And I'm going to start at the bottom just because we tend to start the first item on the list, but I think it'd be cool to start in the bottom. So this first one here is called a weather app. It says a weather application to get the temperature, weather condition, and whether it is day or night of a particular city using AccuWeather, a free weather API. So for user stories, they want us to enter the name of a city into the input field. And by pressing enter, the user submits the name of the city, which updates the DOM with the temperature, weather condition, image of day or night, and weather condition icon. Then as a bonus feature, they say that by closing the browser window, the city name will be stored in local storage, and when the user returns, the name will be retrieved to make an API call to update the DOM. So I'm going to switch over here to my Visual Studio window. Very, very plain Visual Studio window. I actually already have this as a Git repository, so if you guys want to do the same, just run git init and you can get your own Git repository to keep things tracked for you all. But I'm going to go ahead and get started here. So the first thing I want to do is actually create an npm repo just so that I can get all these different dependencies that I need. I'm just going to pass the -y flag, which essentially just says yes to all the different questions the npm starter will normally ask you. Let's go ahead and do that. Now we have our package JSON. I'm going to go ahead and remove main here, and I'll set this to be private true. And then one of the things I want to do is organize my app a little bit. So I'll create a public folder, and then I'll create a server folder. We'll be creating a very basic Express app, and the need for that is because we won't be able to actually make cross-origin calls in the browser because of the same origin policy that the browser protects you with. And it'd be nice if we can just simply use fetch from the browser, but since we're running on localhost and the API is running on a different origin, we can't do that. So we'll be making requests from our own very basic server. And then on top of that, I'm going to need Express for my server. So let me go ahead and install that dependency. Express is a Node.js web server framework that makes it very easy for you to get up and running with basic routing and sort of a request and response lifecycle and so on and so forth. And then I'll go ahead and create app.js in here. For my start script, I want this to just be node app, node server app.js. Then inside of my public, I'll do my index.html. One of the cool things with Visual Studio is if you just type in a exclamation mark, you'll have this Emmet abbreviation that comes up, which will give you a nice HTML5 compliant scaffold. And I'll just call this weather app. Now let me go ahead and get started with the Express part really quickly. So here I'll just do const express. We'll go ahead and require our Express dependency. We'll create an application and set that equal to an instance of our Express. And now we'll say, since we have a static file here that's just index.html, why don't we go ahead and just set that. Let's go ahead and use this app.use, which allows you to use different middleware. Middleware is essentially just functionality that's abstracted that you might want to have happen on every request in uh, the request lifecycle. You can think of it as like different pieces the request will go through, and the request might be altered in some way. So here I want to use the express static middleware, so I can serve static resources from my public folder. And then I also want to use the path module from node. So let's go ahead and do that. Man, my typing is all over the place. So here, let's do path.join. From my current directory, we'll go back one, and then we'll go to public. And I definitely did not want to include that there. We'll include here. And then finally, let's go ahead and listen. Say port 3000, and then I'll just log some boilerplate message here, listening. So let's go back to index.html. I know that I'm going to need a basic form with an input. So let me go ahead and create a form here. Action, let's just say root. Or maybe not even, because I don't have currently anything here. Well, let's see. So I'll just create a section here. I'll put a label and an input, type of text, and a button of submit. I'll say something like get weather. This is label for city. Don't think I need name right now. And then in here, I'll have this as a city. So that looks okay, giving us just a very basic boilerplate that we can use to accomplish this task. We have our basic server, public. Let's go ahead and start this guy up. I already have that start script, so if I do npm start, let's see. Oh, I thought I had it. Maybe I just didn't. Oh, I didn't change the name. I kept it to test. I have this listening. Now I'm going to switch to my Chrome screen. Let's go to localhost 3000. Okay, nice. So now we have this very basic form here that's going to allow us to input some information and get information about a city. Okay, cool. So let's figure out how we can do that. Let me see. I want to actually add some stuff to the code real quick. Now that I was just looking at that, I want to make this required, because then that's actually going to give us some cool functionality. So if I don't enter anything, you'll see we get this please fill out this field, which is nice. Already some protection just by using some HTML5 attributes. But for now, I'm going to go back to the GitHub here. So we already have enter the name of a city into the input field. And now by pressing enter, the user submits the name of the city, which updates the DOM with the temperature. Okay. Now here you can see they have some useful links and resources, one of these being this AccuWeather website. So AccuWeather provides some neat APIs that allow us just to get conditions of a city and a ton of other stuff. And you can actually just register for free, create your own application. I already did this, so don't mind me. I have a ton of different emails, as you all can see, but let me log in real quick. I was thinking of creating a .m file, but what I'll do is I'm just going to delete this app once this video goes live, because my API key is going to be exposed here. But once you create your app, you'll see you have this API key, and you have other information like products and details, so on and so forth, things that you'll fill out at the time of creation of the app. And let's go to the API reference and just mess around with this for a little bit. So for all these different APIs, for example, the one I'm interested in is current conditions. And I think this one was pretty good, current conditions for a city. So this was actually a location I got previously. Let me actually duplicate this tab so we can come back here and go to the locations API. So it was something like city search. Yeah, there we go. So it's going to ask you for an API key. So you can just come here, copy your API key. Oh, clicked the wrong button. Copy your API key, come back here, text to search for. I wanted to do Miami. And you can actually make the request right within your browser, and you'll see you get a 200 OK. And if you come down, you'll see some information. So this is what's going to give you the key, and you'll need to get this key to be able to continue doing your request for a city. So let me just copy this key here, come back to current conditions. That's the key I have in here. Let me again copy my API key. And now you can see that with the location key and the API key, we get information about Miami. So I think what we're going to need for this app is the temperature, weather condition, whether it is day or night. So all that's already given to us. Weather condition, mostly cloudy. Is daytime is true. We have the temperature. We have a link here, which I'm not sure it's for. Weather icon 6. Like, what does that mean, you know? Weather icon? It says a numeric value representing an image that displays the current condition described by weather text. What does that mean exactly? Weather icon 6. I'm curious if there's like some other API that we would call with that icon. Let's see. Get radar and satellite images. Maybe not. Locations API. Just looking up icons. That's interesting. Not sure what the number 6 means, but anyway, we'll get there when we get there. So what I first want to do is, let's see if we can just make a request to our backend with this new form that we've created and just log out some values. So I think now, again, I haven't used, back then you needed to use like body parser for Express.js, so you can actually parse the body of like the payload that was being sent. But before we do that, let's actually come here and say, let's go inside of our code here. Let me go to the app.js file and let's make a new endpoint here. So we'll call this app.post since we'll be posting to this. I want to call it like /weather or something like this. Now, there are ways to improve on this app, make it more organized, so on and so forth. Again, I want to get this video just out. If you all like it, if you all enjoy it, you want to keep talking about it, we can have a follow-up where we improve upon it and do some things like, for example, how can we abstract this so we have routes that are just for weather, and we can even go further to say we have controllers just for weather. So a router just handles routing, a controller handles the logic. That way things are very organized. Similarly, on the front end, we can accomplish something like that too. So let's just come here and let's console log and let's say hit the weather endpoint. Or let's say hit the post weather endpoint. Now, because I'm making a lot of changes here, and because I'm just using Node, Node won't know that I'm actually making these changes. So I'm going to install this nice package called NodeMon, which I believe stands for Node Monitor, and I'll save it as dev dependency. You cannot use the /-D or save dev, either way. And this will make it so instead of using start and only node, maybe for example, I'll create another script here called like dev, and I'll use nodemon. And I'll still pass in the same argument, so server app.js, but this will actually listen to file changes and restart the server accordingly. So if I do npm run dev now, I can see it's listening. So we can go back here. Well, I guess that part doesn't really matter now, but if we make changes to our app, you can see I added an exclamation point and that thing automatically starts the server. So that's very helpful. It makes for very iterative programming. So let's go back to index.html. Now this is going to be a post, and we're going to be going to /weather. So let's see what happens with that. Let's come back here. I also want to open my DevTools just to make it very clear what I'm working with. So let's type down like Miami. It's pending. Okay, now we see that this was sent. That's nice, but the reason it's hanging is because I actually haven't responded back. But you can see that it says that we hit the post weather endpoint. So let's come back here. Let's just say res.status. Maybe actually break this up. Status 200 JSON message success, like this. Start off. Oh, I realized I'm not showing you all my code. Yeah, so apologies if this is a little bit janky to begin with. I'm actually using the Reddit Studio, and every time I switch windows, unfortunately, I have to also remember to change the scene. So it's something that I'm just getting used to. But hit the post weather endpoint, we're going to respond. So let me go back to my front end here. Now you can see it says message success. So that's nice. So let's say another city like Fort Lauderdale, message success. So that's cool. Now, let's see, for this endpoint here, request headers, post, preview, response. The only thing I'm a little bit curious about, and maybe I'm just not seeing this, but oh, you know why? Let me see something. Let's go to index, city required. Let's do name city, right? Let's come back to, again, not actually showing you guys. We have name city here. I'm including this name here to see if that way we can actually get the payload that's being sent. So back to Chrome. Let's again do Miami, weather. Okay, cool. So if you come down here, now we see this form data, and you can see it says city Miami. That's the form data I sent with this post request. And now if we go back to our code, let's figure out how we can actually extract that content. So inside of app.js, what I want to do actually is let's go to the docs, the Express docs, because I think it's useful to learn about how we can do this and just learn. Nope, definitely not Express clothing. So let's go to the API reference here. I'll go to 4. Let's look at the request. Let's look at body. So contains key value pairs of data submitted in the request body. By default, it is undefined and is populated when you use body parsing middleware such as Express.json or Express URL encoded. The following example shows how to use body parsing middleware to populate rec.body. Okay, rec body. Okay, so I kind of want to go through all these things step by step and verify that rec body will just be undefined or not. So let me go back to the code here and let's do that. Let's remove this console log here. Maybe we can just echo the rec.body. See what that gives us. Let's go back to our guy here. Put Miami. Okay. Same response. So that's good. Let's go back to the Express middleware and say for parsing application JSON, parsing application XWW URL form encoded. Now I think with a form has different types. Let's see the different attributes here. ENC type. Here we go. So if the value of method attribute is post, ENC type is the MIME type of the form submission. Possible values, application, XWW form URL encoded the default value. Okay. Oh, well, look at that. It matches the ENC type that's here on the Express page. So I think this one's going to be a good candidate. So let's go ahead and do that one. I'll go ahead and do it right under my static middleware. I'm going to use the same one just like it had. And now let's see if that will give us something different here. So let's go back to our app. Let's put Miami. Ooh, okay. So now we're making progress. So this is really cool. Let's stop for a second and think about what we've accomplished so far. We have a basic HTML5 form. Let me actually go and show the code here. Basic HTML5 form with an action to slash weather and a method of post. Figured out that the default ENC type was URL encoded. We have this label input and we have a button of submit. And then on our back end, by using this Express middleware, now we can actually get data on the body. And we essentially just echoed that back to the client through this JSON method here on the response. Okay, I'm feeling really good about this. So now what's next is why don't we go ahead and make that request to the API. So for this, I'm going to download a library. Well, on the website, so if we come back here, they mentioned Axios, but and this is just for fun, but there's a cool website called Bundlephobia, and Bundlephobia shows you, and I think it tells you, yeah, the cost of adding an npm package. So if I come here and do something like Axios, oh wow, Axios is even better now than it's ever been. This wasn't like this a while ago, but I guess it's come. I mean, thin apparently is even more lightweight. Axios is larger. So what if I want to look up information about Fin? Fin, quick demos, method, data, parse JSON, custom core HTTP options. Yeah, let's go ahead and use this just for fun. I've always I'm always into trying out new different packages, and it's smaller, so why not make our application as lean as it can be. Of course, there are times where using something that's lean is not necessarily better. Sometimes more lean packages are not as feature complete or as opinionated, so you'll actually have to end up adding more functionality yourself or via some other packages. So think about that when you're constructing your own app. But for the purposes of this one, I want to give it a shot. So let's go ahead and just copy this install here. Let's go back to the Visual Studio. I'm going to cancel this and clear the terminal and then just do npm install fin. Let's read about how we can use it now. So let me go back here and it says why fin. Okay, quick demos. So this one looks pretty cool and I like that it uses await async. Maybe for now, I'll just use the normal, let me see, so I'll just do normal then syntax with promises. Maybe at some other point I'll do async await, but just for fun. So it looks like P, well, let's figure it out actually. Let's go back to our code. I'll put this one down here. So what would we want to do? I'm going to go back to here. Copy probably like this one here. Default options. Let's see the full documentation. Wait, global, home. Okay. So let's try something. Let's go on this AccuWeather website. We know the first thing we need to do is get that location key, right? So which one was it again? I think it was city search here. Yeah, city search. So how's this going to look? Here's the resource URL, and these are query parameters, only two of which are required. So let's just construct that ourselves. And I think we go back to Fin here. Oh, interesting. JS doc home. Anyway, pass in an object that concludes or includes a URL and a method. So let's do that. Yeah, get city search. Okay, let's go back to the code. So we want to use p, pass in a URL. Let's make it this. I'll include the other stuff in a second. This is get. Let me just read that for a second. Comment that out. Here I'll need my query parameters. So those are going to be my API key and Q, which is the text to search for. Go back to our code. Okay, so here it was what API key, and then and Q. I'll just hardcode this now to Miami, and then let's go ahead and do see dot then. Is there any other stuff we need to do here? Fin, simple parsing of JSON. I wonder if first, well, why don't we just go ahead and give it a shot, right? See what actually shows up. That's actually one of the best ways of learning. You just go for it. So this is just data. Just say console.log data, and then we'll also catch any errors. Console.error error. Okay, so let's go ahead and see what this does for us. Let's run dev. Let's go back to our app. And I guess we don't really, we have these Q text, the city hard coded, so it's not too important right now. But I just want to see what it does. Okay, so I again did not send a response back, but that's okay. That's why it's just hanging. Let's go back to our code here and see what we have. So we do have some stuff. We have this body that looks like a buffer header. So it looks like we did get a response back. Is there a way that I can see the code? Massive, massive body here. Mutable state, events count. Okay, so let's go ahead and use that parse JSON method that we saw earlier. It's like parse JSON. And then what if we do body here? And then also let's just respond with the same thing. This way we're not, although actually we don't want the response. If we have the response out here, we want to actually wait for the promise to resolve or reject. So we want to actually remove this from here. And instead of, well, let's still console log that out. I don't really mind. But then let's also respond here. Let's fix this up a little bit. Okay, let's go back to our site now. Let's do Miami. Okay, so that looks like it succeeded. If we come back to our code, nice. Okay, look at that. So it looks like now we're getting better information. Now, this, it looks like what we get back is an array. Now, Miami, there are several Miamis across the contiguous United States, but I'm only interested in the one in Florida. I'm going to assume, well, maybe just because of its relevance, the one in Florida is probably the most popular. That's what I think. But how can I get access to this one? Version 1, datasets, city, Miami, Miami. Okay. So what if I just want the first one? Let's just do that. Let's go ahead and make our request again. Go back to our code here. Okay, so now we just have information about Miami, Florida. Yeah, okay, so this is now Miami, Florida. For just now, I'll assume that the first item in this array is the most relevant one, and then let's just go from there. So let's clean this up a little bit now that we have some information. How can I respond? We know that we want to respond with, let me just get, I'm going to copy this information here so I can put it in Visual Studio. That way I have a reference to it. So let's make a quick comment here. So get the temperature, weather condition, whether it is day or night, or a particular city. So we'll remove that. Now let's think about what we're doing here. We no longer want to use Miami here. We want to use it as the body rec dot body. Yeah, we want to use it as the city that we pass in, right? And we saw that the response actually comes back as such. So body city Miami. So here, let's say const city equals request.body.city. Right, so we'll save a copy of that, and then we can actually make the URL a template string. And then here, we'll just put city. So now we can use what we've already gotten there. And then on here, let's think, we want to get temperature, weather condition. So let's see what the temperature is here. Getting this object here, data sets. Here we go, geoposition. Nope, that's not it. Time zone, administrative, country, localized. Is there something else we're missing here? Data sets, radar. Oh, this just gives us the key, doesn't it? Yeah, the key. Okay, so let's just go ahead and get the key, and that's coming from the response key. Okay, so data.body.0. Let's say response equals data.body0. And let's go ahead and respond back with the key, body response key. Yeah, response.key. Okay, so let's see how this changes things. Let's go back to our site. Let's now put Miami. Okay, so it looks like we're not getting anything back. So what we'll do is I'm going to go back to my app here. Looks like nothing happened. I think what may have happened, let me go ahead and console log the city here, which really should be the same, but just to make sure, let's come back here, Miami, come back to my code. So we do get Miami. We are passing that as the URL. Now here, let's look at the response dot key. So let's do here response dot key. Data body 0. Okay. Okay, I put Miami that time, so I might not even get. Let's actually just do Miami. This way we know. Get something back. Looks like it's still. Well, we haven't actually made any changes, right? So. Okay, so the response key isn't defined. So let's look at what the response is. Let's just remove that part. Go back here. Again, Miami. Okay, so okay, might be case sensitive. Let's do that. Response.key. Let me actually just go for it. Doing it live. Let's go back to our scene here. And when I say scene again, I'm using Reddit. So okay, cool. So now we have our key here. So that is great. All right, so we have our key. Now let's go back to the weather app. Not the weather app per se, but the AccuWeather documentation. City search is no longer needed. Now we need to get the conditions API for, yeah, here we go. So we'll have to pass in a city key and query parameters, just the API key. Okay, cool. So let me actually copy this here. Let's come back to our code. Okay, so let me close this to get some more real estate. What do we want to do? So now at this point, response key, let's say now city key is equal to response dot key. Now we need to make a new request. So we'll again use fin, say URL v1, and this is still going to be oh, v1, and now this is actually going to be the city key. Yep. And then let's go ahead and also pass our API key query string parameter. Okay, and then again, we're going to be doing method is get and parse with JSON. Okay. Going to remove the response from here. And we're going to do pretty much the same thing we did before. So again, we'll do a dot then data. For now, I'll just log the data out. And then again, we'll do a dot catch error console.error error. Oh, now again, we can't forget to actually respond here so the request doesn't hang. Oh, let's see, it's complaining about something here. There we go. Here. For here, I'll just say success if we made it here. So let's go with this, and then we'll actually revisit this, and we'll talk about what we've done. So we'll come back here to Miami. Looks like we had a successful response. Come back here to our code. Let's see, I want to go all the way down. Okay, so I actually want to do data.body. Right, so parse JSON, and I guess this might also be case sensitive. Let's go back here. Success again. Let's come back to our code. Let's see, so error, well, a couple things here. Error is not defined. This is interesting. Also.error, error, catch error. Oh, it says here API authorization failed for this API key. Did I accidentally put it? Okay, so it looks like I also included that. Let's come back here to our app here, Miami, success. Oh, look at that. Okay, so now we're getting better stuff here. Temperature, metric, object, imperial. So now, why don't we now respond with some of the things that we need? So let's take this comment we had up here. And then inside of this response, let me, yeah, let's do const response equals data.body. Let me remove, oh, did not mean to do that. Remove this, come in there. All right. So we want the temperature. So what if now we respond with all these different things, right? So let's say temperature. Can we get that? Temperature, metric, and imperial. Let's go back to the docs and see how we can actually get that. Is there a response? Oh, let me use my API key. Let me just fetch it from my app. Okay, so we want temperature imperial value. So let's do that. So it's going to be temperature is going to be equal to the response. And this is just a single object. Oh, it's actually an array, so we'll have to, let's do data.body 0 to get this object here, response dot temperature dot imperial. Was it value? Yeah, value. So let me go back to the code so y'all see what I'm doing here. So response temperature dot imperial dot value. We also want the weather condition. So weather condition. I guess weather text seems like a good candidate. So response temperature weather text. And then finally, if it's daytime or not. So is daytime true? So let's come here and say daytime, and we can say something like response dot is daytime. And we can say yes or no. All right, so let's do this and see what we get. Come back to our app, say Miami. Daytime, yes. Temperature 79, and we're missing another part here. Let's see what could have happened. Temperature and weather condition is response temperature dot weather text. Why wasn't that included here? Weather text. Did I not? Text. Okay, and that's also a string. Oh, there you go. So let's go back now to the app. Get weather for Miami. Boom, look at that. Daytime, yes. Temperature 79. Weather condition, mostly cloudy. Now, let's try out different versions of this and I don't know, like Orlando. Will that work? Mostly sunny. That's very cool. I wonder if Fort Lauderdale will be spelled out like this. Mostly cloudy. Okay. Let's look up cities in the US. Let's do New York. Oh, definitely. Well, this is good actually. So look at what's happening here. We have an error because we misspelled New York and the request is hanging. And the request is hanging because the only thing we do in our code, and we might be able to see this, cannot read property key of undefined. So, oh, and that's interesting because it's not even, yeah, so it looks like it actually, so that's not even considered an API error. So let's look up something here. Let's go back to our scene. Is that creating a type error? Okay, so this is an exception that can be thrown. So let's handle that exception. Yeah, cannot read property key of undefined. Okay, let's see what we can do here. So this happened on line 20, which was the first one that we did. So presumably it would be caught here. So let's do something here. Let me respond with JSON, or actually I want to respond here with a status of 404, and apologies for not showing the code. 404, and I'll do a JSON message. Or do I want a JSON message? Let's just respond with that. And similarly, I'll do the same for now. Oh, I guess we can actually include the error there. Yeah. Let's do this error. And then the same thing. Even though this might not be a 404, I think it's okay. At least we're responding here. So now let's go back to our app. Let's see what we got. So I think I spelled that incorrectly. So error. So that's nice. No error information though. So let's go back to our app here. Yeah, this time it looked like it just swallowed it. And though, however, it might, I wonder if that actually knows to use. Let's see if we do this. I'm curious if the syntax, like the shortening syntax actually works. Okay, still don't get any information there, but what I want to do, previously that was being logged because that was an error, but we're not also getting the error here. I'm not sure why this error is not being represented by the JSON here. I'd really like to learn about that. So let me go back. I want to make this hang. Now, is this because the error, well, let's see. Let's go back to our app. Okay, back to the code, type error. Okay, so if this is a type error, that's the thing that's actually being printed. Let's go back to here. We know that the properties here are message, so that looks like it can be helpful. Let's go back to our code and see if we can just print out error.message. Okay, cannot read property key of undefined. So now if I respond, now I say, let me just copy this whole thing again, put it in here. So rest row 4 error is going to be the error.message. Okay, let's go back to our app, back to the root. Okay, perfect. Cannot read property key of undefined. So now at least we're getting some more helpful information as to why it couldn't work. Now, obviously for a consumer of this, this doesn't really help them, cannot read property key of undefined. You might be logging this to some other external service like Datadog, for example, or adding some more helpful information, maybe not the actual error message. That way it just becomes more helpful for them to try and debug, get in touch with support, so on and so forth. But for the purposes of this app, I think it's good. Now that we have this information, let's actually go ahead and append it to the DOM here. And let's see what we can figure out here. So this is where things are going to get a little more interesting now, I think. So our backend's essentially done. I'm pretty happy with it. And of course, we are certainly going to go over this, and we can expand on this as much as we want. But I think for the case of this, um, this is good for all intents and purposes. This is good. So let's go back to index.html here, and let's see what we need. I think under our form, I'd like to have a div, and that div has weather information for, yeah, maybe here we can do, actually I got a better idea. This is going to be the weather information, and then we'll have a section with that information. We'll make all these H3s. So here we're going to get what temperature, weather condition, and daytime or not. Temperature. Okay. Let's do this. What I'm going to do though is actually create a template, and I'll call this weather template. Templates are really cool because they won't actually be rendered onto the screen, and you can use them to help you make just like clearer UI instead of having to create your elements and then attach things to them and then attach things to those newly created elements and then finally append to the DOM. This already gives you a scaffold of things that you can directly pinpoint query for and attach whatever you want to it. So here, let's say this is let's call this weather. I'll remove that and I'll put this in here. This I'll give, weather, let's say weather city. Let's call this one weather daytime. Let's call this one weather, what was the other one? It was temperature. Temperature. And then weather, oh, wow, I cannot spell today. Weather text. Cool, so let's do a couple of fun things right now. So let's go inside of public folder. I'm going to create this script folder. Inside of here, I'll have just index.js. Now, what I want to do, let me go ahead and link to that. I'll actually do it from, I'll just do it from up here. And then, well, actually, we'll have to make this script, since it's going to be getting it. Public is the one that Express will be using. And I'm going to use the defer attribute, so it actually is not loaded until after all the HTML has been parsed. So let's start creating some of our query selectors so we can get access to all these different elements. So let's think about this. Let's say that our weather template is going to be equal to document query selector weather template, right? And we want to get its content. And then here we can have just the weather. The weather will be uh, weather template dot clone node true. Okay. Let's say here maybe just weather element. Okay. Start with that. And now let's get our const weather daytime is weather element. This is going to be query selector. Let's make sure. So we have weather daytime. I'll just copy it. Let's do weather temperature. Weather element, query selector, weather temperature, and then finally weather text. Weather text is the weather element query selector. I like using single quotes. As long as you're consistent, I suppose it doesn't matter. Okay, so now we have all this. Now let's figure out how we can get that information back so we can actually include it. Okay, so let's think about what we want to do here. In this case, we won't really be able to use the form anymore, right? Because we actually need to use these elements in the JavaScript. So here is where we might be able to use fetch. It's going to become not too much more complex, but let's break it down and see what we need to do. So I no longer want to use, well, I can still use form action whether. Now I think what might be easier is I don't actually use anything here. Let's just do form. And then on this form, I'll give this a class. I can just call it form. Let's come over here and do const form document query selector form. And now when I listen to the submit event, I want to go ahead and prevent the default. Oh, prevent default. Okay. Name city. Let's give this a name. Let's call it weather form. Well, I suppose we don't even need. Yeah, let's see what we can do here. Okay, so let's do a console log here of the form. Let's see what we get here. Let's go back to our app. And we have this New York thing. Let's go back to the console here. Okay, cool. I want to see the object. So let's do a dir, because I don't want the string representation. Miami form. How can I now get the input city? I think if I remember correctly, I thought I can get the name. Let's see, value is Miami. Can I just get the name from doing, can I do console log form dot, What if I do form city dot value? I feel like, oh, let me show you the code. I feel like that worked before, something along these lines. But let's see what that actually does for us here. Let's go back to our scene. Let's go back to our code rather. Okay, Miami. So that actually gets that for us, which is really nice. Okay, now that we have that in our code, let's actually use fetch now to make a request to our backend. The same request we made before. So using fetch, supplying request on, yeah, content type. So let's see, I'm gonna copy this whole thing here, but I'm not gonna use nearly all that just to make it easy to work with. So let's say here, const city equals form city dot value, and now let's copy all this stuff. Post data, we really just care about this. Let me clean that up a little more. And I don't want, so let's see, method's going to be post. Leave the mode as is. Don't care about cache. Don't care about credentials. Now the headers going to be a little different because content type is not application JSON. We want, because we already know the one that we used before from the form page, it's going to be, let's use this one here. Let's go back to our code. Content type. Redirect is fine. Refer policy, no refer. Body, stringify data. I guess we really just need, let's go back. Let's see here using fetch. Yeah, we'll just send an object with the city. And I think that's how it was before. So we might actually have to change how that's being sent. I think it was just body city. Well, let's try that actually. Let's see how that comes out. We'll just pass in body city. See how that comes out. Remove this. Don't forget the closing. So this is await. Don't care for await right now. Definitely let us use dot then here. Right, and just to make sure okay, so we do need to get dot then response. Let's do response.json, which itself is a promise. And then here we'll say data console.log data, yeah, data. And then of course we'll catch any errors. Console.error. Oh, error. So let's think about what we're going to do here. We have this response, which we don't care for anymore. I'm going to make a post request to, oh, we don't even have our URL. So this is going to go to HTTP localhost 3000/weather, right? It's going to be a post request with body city. Yeah, let's pretty much just go for it and see what happens. So Miami, let's see what happened here. Wait, something, okay. Oh wait, did we actually, the cool thing is we can debug all this. So let's go to our sources, to our index.js file here. And let's make sure that we get here. So form city, we have Miami. Let's come here. Looks like we have an error, cannot read property key of undefined. Okay, that's fine. That's coming from the backend. So it looks like we actually did successfully make the call to our backend. Let's go back to the code. Okay, so there was an error there. So let's go back to our backend here and see what's happening. Rec body city. So I want to console.log this out. I actually want to do rec.body. Comment that line out. Put this here. Come back here. Execute the request. Oh, messed up something here. Unexpected token, index.js. I must have. Did I mess up something here? City is not defined. And this is coming from server app.js 15. Oh, I see. Okay, so let's leave this like this. Const city. Now look at the body though. Body Miami. What if we instead just do? What if we instead just come back to our index.js for fetch? What if we just do city here? Seems weird to stringify a string already. But, I mean, can we just put city? Right? See what happens. So back in our app, cannot read property key of undefined. That's fine. Now it's weird that the body is just Miami. It just takes the key but no value. So can we do, let's think. City. Yeah, what if we did city and city? Let's try this out. Come back here. Same thing. Now it's object object, so this might be where stringify comes into play here. Let's come back. City Miami. Frankly, I'm not sure why it's setting it equal to the key. Answer 42. Let's go back to the docs and see how it's being used here. So post data, this data here, the only time we see it again. Oh, body data type must match content type header. Okay. I mean, does it need to be, maybe it doesn't even need to be, maybe that's just because of how the form is being used. Okay, let's think about this, right? So now let's just use app.useExpressJSON since now we're going to be using application JSON. Let's come back to our code here. App.js. Let's actually change this guy here. Let's come back to this index.js and let's change this back to application JSON. Right, and then city will be equal to city here. Okay, so let's try that. Let's try that again. Refresh the page, Miami. Look at that. Okay, so this is very good. Now that worked. Application JSON worked. We got back the information that we need. Let's go ahead and use this to now render something onto the DOM. So I want the template to exist. Oh, we can append it to the bottom of this body here. So let's say here, let's call this, oh, looks like I have, okay, class. Let's call this content. Close out some of the stuff here. Let's say content, query selector, content. This is where we're actually going to append the information. Okay, so in our response, or rather inside of here is where we have what we want to append. So let's go ahead and do that. Console log data. So now we can say we have our weather elements, right? So weather, yeah, weather daytime, weather temperature, and weather text. Weather daytime dot text content equals data dot, Oh no, I have to remember this stuff here. So let me just actually, can we get the response from this? Yeah, I'm gonna copy this response here so I can kind of use this. So daytime text content is data dot daytime, weather temperature, and weather text. Weather text is going to be data dot weather condition. And then here it'll be data dot temperature. Now let's take our content dot append weather elements. So let's see what this gives us now if we come back here. All right, so starting from the beginning, Miami. Okay, so we didn't get anything, but we got assignment to a constant variable on index.js. Oh, look at this. I don't want to change the variable itself. I just want to change this text content. Let's come back to scene. Okay, so we have yes and 78. It's not very, very nice. We're getting there, but let's keep messing with this. I feel like I made the same mistake I made last time. Let me just make sure I'm daytime, temperature, and weather text. Okay. Now I remember that I wanted to keep, we need weather city, right? Do I already have that one? I never created that one. So let's do const weather city is equal to weather element query selector weather city. Weather city is going to be the form value, which we should probably set this. Yeah, so let's do weather city dot text content equals city. Let's change that there. That will add all that stuff there. Let's see, weather text, weather temperature, and weather daytime. Data daytime, data temperature. It looks like we're missing one, but let's figure that out. So let's refresh again. Miami, yes, and 78. Let's see where we are messing up here. Oh, so this is yes, which we don't really want that, 78. And text content. Ah, weather condition. So let's do weather condition. And then maybe text content, we can say daytime. So oh, let me show you what I did. I had this as weather text. This should be weather condition. Here, maybe we can say, is it currently daytime? Put this in there. And then we can say the temperature currently is. Put that. And then the condition is. Okay, so let's go back to our app. Let's resume. We don't need the debugger right now. Let's refresh, get weather in Miami. There you go. So is it currently daytime? Yes, the temperature currently is 78. And probably here, I know the unit is going to be Fahrenheit. So let me just add that there. Come back to my scene here. And this time let's do like Orlando. Ooh, undefined, undefined, and undefined. Interesting. Let's see if New York will work. New York does not work. What was the other one that we had? Just sworn there was one more. Oh, Fort Lauderdale. Okay, so this is very interesting. Let's see why we are getting all these errors. Anything that we can find out here? Server responded with the status of 404, not found. Cannot get slash weather. Did I do something here? City, Orlando, New York, Fort Lauderdale. Okay, so somewhere I'm still printing this out. I forget where. So city, response.json. It's coming back here. Rect.body.city.orlando. Const city, city. Response.key. So is it happening? Wonder where it's happening in here. Come back here. I want to look at the network. Make sure we're sending this slash weather. Not read property key of undefined. Okay. Interestingly though, I don't get any other. Yeah, I suppose that let's come in here. Let's see what the response is. Just call this console.log data.body. Come back here. Let's enter one of these other ones like Fort Lauderdale. Don't need this right now. Ah, okay. So I'm actually being throttled currently. It looks like I reached the amount of requests I can make for the day. So service unavailable, the allowed number of requests has been exceeded. Now, the nicer thing to do here, let's see how we can actually data.body. What if I just get the data? Code service unavailable. Can I actually get more information just by going back? So let's see if we can get access to the code here. And data. There we go, status 503. So you can do something like if data.status code equals 503, we can send respond.status 503 JSON message, let's say limit or request limit exceeded. Please try again later. And then we'll return right here. Oh, let's go from there. All right, so we've added that here. Now let's see what happens if we come back to our app. Let's refresh. Let's do Miami again. Oh, so same thing. Now it's 503 service unavailable, but it's not. So was that actually a different? Was that a different error that we were getting from somewhere else? Maybe it was. Let's think. Yeah, it won't actually show anything here, right? Because this is just coming from the back end. But if we go back to our app, yeah, service unavailable. Please try again later. What we need to do is on the front end, that's F503 response.json. Now, is this marked as an error? Apparently not. It's still making it. So I wonder what would be. Oh, well, it's not that it's setting it to undefined. It's not setting this text. So here, maybe we can let's see what we can do here. What if we instead made the weather element style dot display equal none? There's an issue. Maybe not the best way to figure it out. And then here, right before we append it, weather element dot style dot display. Let's make it a block element right here. Let's go back to our app. Let's refresh. Okay, so we're getting service throttling, and now we see that it doesn't even put it. Now, of course, we can add better error handling here, but I think for now it's good. Okay, sweet. Okay, so now let's go ahead and finish up with what the extra credit is, which I think it's to call local storage when we close the window. So I think there's like a window, yeah, on before load. I was looking at this earlier. Let me see what we can actually do here. If I do this, go back to our app. Let's do it. Let's do it actually down here. Event console.log closing. But I suspect that there's more that we can do here. So cancel the event. E.return value. Chrome requires return value to be sent. Guarantee the browser unload by removing the return value property of the element of the event. So let's see. So e.prevent default. Let's come back here. Event.prevent default, which seems interesting. Okay, is that really gonna close my page? Okay, well that totally closed my page. I wonder if I can actually get. Okay, here we go. Let's see. Caching the page. Do something. Yeah, I'm actually here. Do something before window close JavaScript. Do something false. What does the third parameter of add event listener do? Use capture. Events that are bubbling upward through the tree will not trigger a listener designated to use capture. Event listener callback. Okay, so let's just try and figure it out. Let's see. So we're gonna look up local storage. See how to use it. So local storage.set item mycat tom. So let's just do that. Let's go back to our code and let's just go ahead and use it. Like I closed it, and I know that if I currently have something in the form, let's say if I've actually submitted a city, or maybe we can always just get. It might be better to just get the input itself. Input type, form, input. Yeah, let's do this. Let's actually go back to our index.js, and instead of here, form city value, let's actually get that value ourselves by doing here. So form city input equals the same thing here. Well, form city, and then form city input dot value is the city, and then down here, let's do false. We can check to see. So if form city input dot value, if it contains something, let's do local storage set item city. We'll set that equal to the form city input value. So let's see what that gives us here. But what is set item? So value string. Okay. So let's come back here. If I enter Miami now, let's look at what our local storage is here. We can look at it through local storage. So nothing right now. So if I close this, which I'll open up Chrome again right now, we go back to localhost 3000. We look at our local storage. Is there anything actually there? Okay, cool. So we don't currently have anything set on local storage, but let's see if we can actually. Okay. Value is Miami, local storage set item, form city input dot value Miami. Okay. Okay, look at that. So it is there. So now let's do something like when the page loads for the first time. So JavaScript do something. JavaScript do something when page first loads. Forgot the one for this one. The first page load. It wants to unload fire event. That's code run before. Onload. Window.onload function. Okay, so let's do window.onload and see what that gives us. And actually, I also want to see like window events. I want to find window events, event reference, clipboard. Okay, so there's documents, HTML elements. We're looking for a window. So load event. Okay, cool. So I think this one's good. Window add event listener load. So let's do the same thing here. Before unload, and then we'll have window add event listener load. And now let's check to see. So let me show you how I did that. Literally just copied it from MDN. Come back here. So local storage get item city. Okay, so let's come back here. I think we need this. So if, let's say const city equals local storage dot get item city. I just want to make sure this won't throw an error. Like, does it just return nothing if I don't find it? Local storage. Yeah, where can we see the actual storage get item? Null is returned. Okay, so city get item city. So if city, we essentially just want to do all this stuff, right? City equals form city input value. So let's copy this, right? Remove all that out. And let's put it in a function right under here. So function get city conditions. Paste all the code in there. Now here, we'll pass the name of the city instead of getting the city, right? And that will, well, I suppose that will always be, yeah, that will always be form city input value anyway. If there's a city, so let's think about that. If there's a city, well, we can do that anyway. Down here, if city gets city conditions with the city from local storage, and then in here, get city conditions with form city input value. We don't need this one anymore. Okay. And here we can actually remove this. Doing some quick light cleanup. Okay, so let's go back to our code here. Let's see what we got. So if I refresh here, cannot set property display of undefined, service unavailable. Ah, okay, so we're not even able to, yeah. Form city input value, display of undefined, other element style dot display, if the city, other element, at city conditions. Hmm. I wonder why we're unable to actually set. Ah, it's a document fragment. Yeah, so I think, yeah, what we have to do here, let's actually come back to our content here. See that I don't need this anymore. Let's come back. I just removed this event from here. Let's come back to here where our template is. Let's do this. Then in here, we actually need to get access to the weather element. That's the thing that we want to clone. Let's try this again. Unfortunately, we won't actually be able to get, let's see, clone node of null. Ooh, interesting. Weather template, content. Oh, I didn't pass the class selector. So I just came back here and put the class selector, the period, right before it. Just want to do all that. Service unavailable. Come back here. So it is actually taking, it is taking now this. Let's think about why it's not, let's think about why it's still showing. Wait a second, failed to load resource. Server responded. Weather element. Display none. Do we need to have this in more areas? Failed. So we set weather element dot style dot display none. Let's go back here and see what's wrong. So we're definitely caught. Style dot display equals none if we catch something. Oh, now why it's still showing? It's interesting. Really not sure why it's still showing here. Let's think about this. So we have, maybe we can make it so it's always, maybe it's always block. Maybe it's, okay, let's do this. Instead of catching the error here, either if we catch an error, yeah, if we catch an error here, let's say we just remove this for now as part of the weather block. What if we actually gave this, I know I'm doing inline styles, but let's say this is none to begin with here, index.js, and then when we set that equal to that, only then does it actually make it a block element. let's see. That's bizarre. Let's look at our elements. So it's still going there despite it having actually failed. Response.json, and that's because it's coming from fetch. So I guess it doesn't really, I guess the fetch doesn't catch 503. Like it's still thinking. Let's go back here. Oh, it's okay. Done. Okay, error. Why does fetch work this way? Only rejects a promise when a network error is encountered. Although this usually means permissions issues are similar. Basically, fetch will only reject the promise if the user is offline or some unlikely networking error occurs, such as a DNS lookup failure. Ah, okay. So this looks nice. For instance, following code. So let's actually copy this and see what we can change. So this is going to be index.js, response.json. Let me copy this here. So we have, comment this out. So then function response, it's actually, here we can say if response.ok return response.json. Let's say we just do that and then remove this, come back here, move this line. Nice. Now, unfortunately, we're actually still being throttled. Cannot read property daytime of undefined. But we are still being throttled, so we can't even see that. Current property daytime of undefined. That's still coming from our front end. Yeah, so here it doesn't actually. Yeah, so we should probably patch error. Then maybe here on the front end, we can do similarly to like what they did on the website, where they just throw a new error and console log it. So let's do the same thing where we throw this response status text. And then here, console log error. Come back to our app. Service unavailable. Cool. So this pretty much wraps up this first video. It went a little bit longer than I was thinking it would, but I'm happy with what I covered. I feel like I learned some things myself. One of the nice articles I really enjoyed was this one. I hadn't worked with fetch in a while, and frankly, I forgot about this extra property that we get here from the response object, so that's pretty neat. So hopefully anyone watching found this useful, and please leave me some feedback. Let me know what you'd like to see for next time. If you'd like me to improve on some things, for sure we can do that. And after any time that we improve the code base, we'll also be uploading it to the GitHub. So I'll be doing some light touch up from what we've already worked on, make things a little more organized for you all to work with. But thank you all so much for tuning in and watching this first video. I really do hope to cover all of these different ones at some point, and I think it'll be a lot of fun for everyone. Let's really go over quickly what we did. We created a basic weather app that just allows us to pass in a city to an input and get some information about the weather conditions in that city. And then as a bonus, we also saved that city to local storage, and on reload or on load, if a city already exists, it'll automatically execute an API request for us. So I had a lot of fun with this. Hope you guys did too. Looking forward to hear what you all have to say. And I will see you all next time here on and bits of that nature. Take it easy, everyone.